Hello, welcome to another episode of AI Ranch, where we discuss all things AI. Today, I just received from my printer the AI report from Microsoft. It's actually from February. So that AI is making us dumber. We are less critically thinking people. So today with me are my friends Ariel and Paul. So do you agree on this?
Yes.
I would say so.
Are you using AI and are you feeling dumber now?
I do actually. I sometimes, even yesterday, it was funny that when I checked this report and I was quite tired after work and I was like, I just don't feel like reading it. So I just asked GPT, hey, get me a summary. What's the most important things? And so he read 25 pages in 20 seconds. And I was like, oh, I'm so smart. I just read everything. And so I know main bullet points. Obviously, I've gone over it. But I think that's kind of the metaphor of what's happening right now. So it's easier and faster to just consume complicated content using LLMs.
Definitely. And
what did you learn from this paper then?
It's a school.
So you get dumber. That was what we expected.
That does remind me of like when I was in high school. Even like there was like I read the book. I read the book and the teacher. Okay, tell me what the story. And it's like
let's do a quick exam. Okay, so what was on the table 11? So no, but seriously. I assume that somebody reading that huge paper very carefully would remember this, but if you just ask it for GPT to summarize, right, it's kind of easy to forget, right?
I think that's literally for me as well. I like reading books, and I used to read a lot of books, but when you read a book thoroughly, you actually, I don't know how exactly, but you develop some sort of awareness or like a contextual idea of everything in the book, and you can easily navigate these topics. But if you glance over, like even audiobooks, in my opinion, me and Paul, we listen to a lot of audiobooks, but the audiobooks do feel like when you listen to them, they don't feel as, you don't remember that.
You start sliding off.
There is a way how to remember even with audiobooks. I mainly listen to audiobooks when I'm walking from the office to the office and so on, but I know that I want to remember this information, so I take
listen to
notes.
audiobooks and you know you will not remember that information.
Yes, if I don't write it down. So it's easier for me to write down something on my phone than to read on my phone while I'm walking.
Have you tried reading books like physically through?
Yes, I have read a lot of books physically, but lately I don't have as much time, so I try to make things faster, same as with using LLMs.
So
but
books, audio books, then ChatGPT.
And then there's even like micro learning, TikTok videos, how to make pasta.
Somebody actually learning from TikTok.
I think a lot of people have, and it's the attention span problems. Even recently,
What did you learn from TikTok?
I am not on TikTok, by the way. But
what did you learn on TikTok?
I don't know. I don't spend time learning there.
Okay, but YouTube for me is a big learning platform, and I think for you as well,
yes.
For coding, right, and stuff.
Actually, no. One of the things that I really stopped using YouTube for is coding tutorials, because they are in a way too simplified and not to the point.
Yeah, you're too advanced already. But
at some point it's easier to start just reading the documentation, and there are some who call it tutorial hell, where you just watch one tutorial, you don't feel like you have learned anything because you haven't used it in practice, so you watch the next one and the next one and the next one, and at the end of it you never start doing anything practical.
So there was actually regarding what you're saying, was a blog post where people were discussing that junior developers can't actually code anymore, where they have this nice chart that when you use something, when you use AI assisted tools, it's very easy and you can get results fast. And when you use some tools like before, like go in Stack Overflow and discover that what you're looking for is not there, and then you need to think yourself how to resolve issue, right, and help others. So do you agree on that? Can you see this on our teams and in other teams?
Yes, definitely. I recently talked with one of our team members who had just stopped using the AI tools. He said he's taking like a month break just to keep his skills up because he felt dumber while using them. And that's also something I see everywhere, that these LLM tools let you write things so fast that you never actually learn, and you don't know what's written there if you don't read it thoroughly and looking what exactly was written there.
Yeah, I was seeing like really dumb code where somebody is trying to, I don't know, do some simple things like sorting stuff, and there's like some strange loops somewhere and all sorts of crazy codes.
Also, there are some interesting patterns developing by this because, for example, there's this one sorting algorithm called quicksort, which, as the name implies, is really quick, but it relies on some structures. Yes, it relies on date structures that are really fast. And in JavaScript, these large language models ignore this aspect and makes it actually really slow. Although our algorithm is correct, but the way it uses language is bad.
By the way, my students, so basically we also still do some homeworks. I'm telling them, please don't use AI for homeworks. And every time some genius is using the generated code so obvious that, like, if you're a junior developer and you generate code, like, it's immediately visible that you did not write this code yourself. Like, it's like any senior developer can tell you that, right?
Yes, definitely.
That's something. Did you see the same in design? So basically, for example, graphic designers don't know how to build correctly, let's say some illustration, draw, and then generate stuff. Is it as good with Gen AI tools now?
I mean, like, I wouldn't say that Gen AI per se, like everyone have seen like DALL-E or whatever photos. So they instantly you can tell it's an AI, and then it's like, look how realistic it is. Now it's not AI, it's real, and still people can still say that's AI, right? I think where it gets more interesting is like more details, like icons or layouts and stuff like that, where the idea would be if it's something that looks easy and you have seen many times, it's more likely that AI did it, because a novel design usually comes from like a big chunk of patterns. And on that, it's like even when I was in uni in UK, we basically in the first year in design school, they really try to teach you the critical thinking, right? And the way how they do it is by saying, every Friday, you come at 9 o'clock, and then for like the whole of day, you have a crit, which is basically you get criticized, and everyone, all your classmates and the teachers hate your job. They say it's so bad here and there, and what they do is they try to make you think critically about it. And so when you come on Friday, you have to have good work on the wall, right? And I think that's what happens.
Critical thinking is making feel you that you have bad job, or what is it?
No. So I think you misunderstood. It's like basically when you get criticized, you internally start to think, oh, I'm not that good, and I don't want to feel that way, so I better make my game better, right?
Or you defend your work.
And the defend part is the most important, because every Friday we had some guys start to shout with the teachers, or some girls even crying. And at the end of the year,
cried?
I never cried, but but at the end of the year, I asked our tutor, I said, listen, what's going on? What are you guys doing? That's so weird. He said, we don't care about what you put on the wall. All your work is shit. All your work is terrible, right? And we care to break your egos, because until you don't believe that your work is not great, you will always ship bad work. And I think that's how the critical development critical thinking is developed. When you see your work, code or design, and you think it's not good enough, you start to like just constantly like loop around it.
In coding, it's interesting. It's called code smell.
All right.
There are code smells where you feel that something is wrong with this code, that it's going to be pain in the ass in the future, but you sometimes can't even exactly pinpoint what is it, but there's something wrong with it. And that's an interesting thing to also develop as a skill, because you need to see a lot of code, you need to write a lot of code to develop this skill.
Evalds probably smells a lot of code.
But the critical thinking part. So this was good example of breaking it down. Confidence. By the way, this ties very well together with what I have here. So this is the illusion of knowledge by University of Yale in 2002. They discovered this phenomena. It is very similar to what you can do with Google. For example, you don't know something, you look for it, you get the information, you immediately think that you know this, but you actually don't know this, you just know how to find it. And they even have this chart, Dunning-Kruger effect, where basically when you start to have some kind of competence, immediately you go up, I know everything, and then you go, oh, I don't know that much, right? And then a long time ago ahead you say, I know a little, or like, I know enough, right? But this high
how does it tie into LLMs though? Like,
so, yeah,
does it just accelerate this?
I think it's exactly that, but even like on steroids, right? It's much more powerful. But also regarding to the critical thinking,
I would disagree. I would say LLMs don't accelerate this. LLMs make you stuck in that peak where you feel like you know everything, but you actually know nothing. You can say, I have built this, I have used this technology, but you actually haven't. LLM has been thinking instead of...
You're right, actually. I remember reading this article from Harvard Business Review last year, by the way. It was last year. And they did a study of shipping like some sort of business strategies. And they did 3 groups, like one group that used LLMs, generative AI, one group that was just mediocre group, and one was like a great group, right? And so, but each group was given a task to generate a business strategy or something like that. And what happened is that the group that used LLMs had like 80% were mediocre business strategies that nobody would say were great, right? The mediocre group had 80% terrible strategies and 20% like good strategies. And the best group had like the most great strategies and very small like mediocre results. And the idea was that at the end they asked, which group had the most confidence in their business strategies? The LLM group, because they were the most smartest, because they believed it.
AI and you are smart now, but that's all goes to the same point I want to make. So the critical thinking, the one thing you're saying, breaking down confidence, that's one, but it's not enough. Like if you break down the confidence and you don't have any substance, then the critical thinking, I don't think it's possible to work at all. So how to build the substance, how to actually make sure that somebody writes in the ChatGPT or any other AI some kind of question, it gets the answer about, I don't know, the political events, about the mathematics, whatever. How to build that foundation? What do you think? So that you would be able to concern, not just, I don't trust ChatGPT. That doesn't work. You need to have something to balance it out, right?
You have to read actual news, the information that the ChatGPT is based on, because before this we started talking, we talked with Ariel how he researched something and GPT gave like 3 competitors, where actually one of the competitors is out of business already. There are 3 that it didn't mention, and so on. And the only way how you can actually know more and be more critically thinking is if you read something, if you train your own brain.
Yeah, trained brain. That's like whenever somebody asks me, I always go back to like, so to do the counterintuitive thing. When in the age of AI, when AI is great at doing all sorts of, even now we'll talk about reasoning and all sorts of things, we need to do actually the things that they are great at. So basically we train our own level up to level where we are able to do the critical thinking. Like if the AI is great at reading literally works and creating good blog posts, then we should be able to do this excellently so that we could be able to, critically think over the AI.
But
That's
that has been the case always. You should know at least how multiplication works to use calculator. You should read about what's happening in the world not only from one news source. And people for some reason are using AI as this one source of truth without thinking, looking at other sources. It's fun even comparing outputs of different large language models, because each of them has
just run multiple times and get random seed.
Yes, exactly.
If somebody didn't know, you can ask your marketing research idea, right? Ask it once, you will get a different set of companies, close everything down, open it again, preferably say the temporary chat, ask it again, you will have different companies, most likely. They will not, some will be the same, but they will change. What do you think?
Yeah, I do agree with that. It's just I think there are some caveats to what you just said. Is that the databases, like nowadays we have searches and like X, which has a connection to the tweets and all that, and so you get more up-to-date information, and it could be more. And then on top of that, you have the reason model, which actually tries to evaluate, which is critical thinking in some sense. But on the note about the training brain and like staying intelligent, not dumb, right? I think for me,
how you stay intelligent and
reading,
not dumb.
reading, and then just discerning.
Just reading?
Discerning different types of reading, right? So, for instance, if I am on X, that's not the best reading. It's very scandalous. It's emotional. People, the algorithm gives you information that's very scandalous, right? Not even talking about social media like Instagram or stuff like that, where you are given very easy to consume content about dog videos or funny, cars or whatever. But let's say intelligent, something that develops your intelligences. And for me, recently, it's actually reading the paper. I actually got a subscription to a paper. Every morning I go, I open my post box, I take out the paper. I don't have enough time. Listen, I don't have enough time to read the whole paper, because to read one article takes about 15 minutes. So think about it. And then you slowly read through it, and it really helps.
Yeah, so once again, you choose to read probably the most scandalous content.
No, I mean,
easiest to consume content.
Paper is not that bad. So listen.
Paper is the Twitter for grandpa. So
no, listen, it's coming back. It's the 80s. It's coming out. It's the new thing, right? Listen to this. So when you read the paper, first of all, these are journalists. At least here, the journalists have respect. So people do, respect their job. They love what they do, and they write really well. That's not, they don't write politically infused. There is politics, of course, but there is a critical thinking. There's a play with words. You don't get that on X. You don't get, even on digital, like if you go on...
Next time, ask the newspaper to have the advertisement here, right? Bring the paper next time.
I have it here. You want to see it?
One thing you mentioned are the thinking large language models, that they are starting actually to have critical thinking. Evolt, maybe you can explain what exactly are the thinking large language models, how are they different?
So the thinking large language models are actually not that different from other language models. It's just that the way when they train the model, they add like this magical token, or you would think like a word that indicate that what I just generated needs to be reviewed again by the model. So the model knows itself when to stop reviewing what it was generating before. So, but also there's many parts of the whole process that is except for the open source models, which we don't know exactly. Probably they have some other methods that they put in, not just vanilla language model processing. As I was telling some time before, I think the actual next step, and I believe some of this is already happening, is that you could convert the natural language into symbolic language. We have already seen this with the previous generation models where they generate Python code and then solve complicated problems which you cannot solve just by language. So, but this is the basically the idea that it feeds it back in until it gets the result. You can do it manually as well. You can just generate stuff, ask again, ask again, ask again.
It's basically what previously people called chain of thought and used the prompting for it.
Yeah.
How does that are similar to human critical thinking? Is there similarities?
Yeah, that's a cognitive scientist question. Even I don't.
Put the scientist hat on.
I don't think. Yeah, I'm not a.
Or a cowboy hat.
Yeah, like all the science is not the same. I cannot go with my doctor's degree in the operating room.
I understand. I understand.
We need to get a cognitive scientist on next podcast.
Yeah, let's get it. But generally, what do you think? Because it seems there is a similarity to.
No, for sure. Somebody looking at how the thinking models work, you would see it like a consciousness where the model is talking with itself, and at some point when they get even smarter, now they are even above 120 IQ, like above the average IQ already, the O3 and DeepSeek, whatever, so R1. So this illusion, I think it's a little bit misleading, because somebody could think that it is like superhuman, even though it's not actually doing superhuman things. It's just iterating. Basically what it's doing in a nutshell, mathematically what it's doing is generating a text, and in text sometimes there will appear random words, and some word might be the answer to your question, and it's feeding it back, please generate me more words, and as soon as it finds the right combination of words, it pays attention, picks those words and generates the answer. That's literally what it's doing.
So it's still just a glorified autocomplete.
Yeah, but it's very powerful. But at the same time, I had somewhere here. So this was the, this is the multiplication table 401. So okay, it's not 03, but whatever. So it was able to do multiplication 9 by 9, and as soon as you go over 9 by 9, it is failing totally. So it doesn't mean that it's easy for OpenAI to fix, but it's a fundamental how language models work.
It's also interesting that each company's model, if you look at the benchmarks, are stronger in different suits. For example, Anthropic's cloud is best for coding. Almost every developer agrees on that, there's no question. But when it comes to general questions or even mathematical exam tasks, it's one of the worst ones. And GPT is better.
But so from that note, they just released Cloud 3.7, which is again, as always, better in everything.
No, if you look down on the last row, there's the mathematical exam questions.
Yeah, mathematical exams. It's bad at mathematics again.
It's bad.
Anthropic needs to learn.
But all of them are. All non-thinking models get under 20% there.
Yeah. But wait, could it be related to what you said before about language and symbolic language, that the fact that it's trained on language, but mathematics are somehow made in symbolic ideas?
Yeah, but that's nothing new. I think at some point GPT 4.0, I believe it is like that. If you will give some mathematical tasks, it will just generate it Python code and will solve it for you. So basically.
GPT-4 did that. GPT-4.
Yeah,
I have had problems getting it to do that.
Why they broke something?
It sometimes just generates the code and says, or just generates the algorithm and gives me solve it. I think it trains me to think critically
Oh, yeah,
again.
somebody could
but
make-
I have to explicitly ask it to run it. Then it generates it and runs it, actually. But it's harder to get it, and it might be related to costs.
Yeah.
That would be my guess, because they need to isolate each of these runs.
Oh,
they need
they-
to
It was too
spend server
expensive
power.
to generate Python code, right? Or something like that.
Probably because they have extra security layers on top, which spend server time, which they could be spending generating answers for others.
By the way, on that note about the mathematics, I kept thinking about, I've been teaching my daughter like counting and taking away from numbers and all
How
that.
old is your daughter?
She's 5.
Teaching counting.
But she likes it. She wants to learn it.
You
and
need
she-
to teach her multiplication already.
Yeah, and we're learning. First of all, multiplication is in the first grade, by the way, not in 5-year-olds. So
Oh.
not every kid is a genius, like a professor's kid, whatever. But the fact is that how we teach her is that she just learns the forms of the numbers, right? So it's very much like the learning letters and reading. But the moment we start to learn counting, she's like, you take 3 fingers, 2 off, right? She thinks that way.
It's addition, not counting.
You know, I mean, addition, yeah, right. But what's interesting is we took a book and we opened, it was like a maybe first or second grade task about multiplications, right? And I tried to teach her, and I realized, how can I teach multiplication? Because there is no language, at least in my head, to teach multiplication. I start to try to explain it, but there is sort of like so you think in your head there's 2, and then you take 2 and 2, but you have to imagine it.
Multiplication is just counting.
I
Just
know,
addition.
exactly. But for
multiple
me,
times.
again, I'm not coding every day and doing maths every day. So for me, it was a relearning how to teach someone. But what I would say is that it didn't feel like teaching language. It felt like teaching something else.
Yeah, you're right. I think you're on something. Again, symbolic representations, even the visual representations would be fun to do some experiments. Somebody should do it. Like add for these mathematical tasks some kind of visual generations, right? And then feed back some interpretation in the models, right? And see if that improves the results. It would be super inefficient. Nobody should do this for the production, but it would be fun, right?
Microsoft could write a research paper on it. So when should actually people press the think button in ChatGPT to get something? No, in ChatGPT there's no think button. But
There is. You can change the models, but
Yes.
also there is the blue button of the search, and all of these buttons have their own meaning. And if you press them in the wrong way, you get unexpected results. So again, let's start with the search button, right? That's I think one of the important ones. It's you get it when you pay OpenAI, but it's worth it. So you would be able to replace a lot of Google things with that. It will search in their indexed database sources, pull in, produce results. But it's not great when you need to have your own creative work generated, like the financial plan, marketing plan, whatever. Then you don't press that blue button. You actually feed model with information. And there were actually, I think, a few weeks ago, the president of OpenAI was posting his own guidelines for the prompts. Finally, for a very long time. So, and it is saying that you put the task in front, then you put some output guidelines, very little text in that part, and then you just dump in the content, and then you generate from that. And when you generate from that, you don't use the search, and you then use the model. But then this question, which one model to use?
basically for the search, it's either you choose the
even
model
don't-
new information, or you choose to use a model that has information cut-off date somewhere in last year, and
I
you
would
don't
not
try.
trust to search anything in a trained model. Would you?
No, but that's the distinction when to use it, when not.
But that's also kind of fundamental. Like, I don't think people realize that. Like, there is a huge difference between using the LLM large model for searching things inside the model and using the external database. Like, completely different world. And people, I don't think they realize there's different ways.
Probably now, because
Yeah.
it's not explained anywhere.
Yeah,
They
it's
just see a
strange.
button
It's strange.
that not everyone notices.
Which even I sometimes accidentally don't press or press. Are you pressing the button correctly?
I don't actually use that much GPT.
You don't press the
No,
button.
I recently I've been using Grok, right? Grok just came out. I've been premium subscriber. You gave it for free. For me, the question is, as far as you know, like, what's the difference between deep search and just basic search with GPT? Like Perplexity search or Grok deep search?
The deep search it's hard to understand what exactly it's doing because Grok is a reasoning model in of itself, and the deep search is more their attempt at making a research agent. It's more of, I want to use agent for this, not just a model.
I think it's step towards there. The agent, I think, would mean that it would go into the website, scroll some things. It's actually just using their own database, pulling. So it identifies that they're missing information.
You want to
Going and picking more information, again, identifying which information is needed. Again, picking from the same database. It's not like...
you think they have actually crawled big part of the web to use their database?
So I think that's the same as just using the regular search, Perplexity search or whatever. They just use their vector database or...
I'm still convinced that
All right,
Perplexity uses
I like
Google under the hood.
Paul thinks Perplexity is cheating.
It's not cheating. It's summarizing. In my experience, it just summarizes top 5 or top 10 results.
From
and that's
Google?
It. Yes.
That's why Google is still quite up there in the search.
I just want to say that I think people should play with reasoning and thinking models right now, because there's not just they just came out. Like, I know you said it came out months ago, but most people are starting to use them. So, for instance, when I need to edit text, I use the basic LLM. I don't need the reasoning model. But when I research a topic, it's more interesting because it starts to kind of show how to think about stuff. But again, I don't think the use cases are there yet for everyone. So to probably
it's good to start. Pick one of the providers which has both thinking and non-thinking, and see the speed, what the result.
Usually it is so slow that you need to enable a notification when it's done.
The ChatGPT 03 is fast. Gemini 2 is fast. But that's the last question, I think, for this one I had for you. I know that you're currently paying for ChatGPT, but which service would you pick and how to choose? If I pay OpenAI, Google, Anthropic, X?
I like Perplexity because you can, I know they fine-tuned, one of the first who fine-tuned R1. There is the DeepSeek R1, which is uncensored there. You can use it for deep research. It goes, and recently they added also auto features so that it chooses between all of these reasoning models. So in itself, and it's easier task than simpler, then it's harder than harder. It has also even cloud. It has even the OpenAI model. So I like that it's
so someone who's using all of the APIs, so you can experiment.
Yeah, it's great. Like, you can easily switch around, and I can see that, for example, how R1 is behaving. Is generating like 30 these thinking events, and the other model is doing in another way. I think it's a great way to explore for anyone. You just need to buy again. It's nothing is for free basically with AI.
Well, it makes sense because of the server cost.
Yeah, it's like even Microsoft's running in like losing money with ChatGPT. So let's end on a good note. Let's not be dumber, right? Use the reasoning models, but also read, right? Paper, maybe books also, but yeah. So, or papers like these, right? So, no.
Whatever your printer spits out.
Okay, so yeah, see you in another episode. Thanks for joining, subscribe and like. Bye bye.